Welcome back to the podcast. On today's episode, we're going to learn how to control your dreams and find out how this can help your mental health and that of your patients. So in today's episode, we have Dr. Kristen LaMarca, PhD. She's a clinical psychologist, board certified in behavioral sleep medicine. She's an expert in nightmare treatment and the therapeutic application of lucid dreaming. She's known for her research on optimizing lucid dream induction. So that's what we're going to be talking about. Lucid dreaming, how to be aware that you're dreaming and then control it. How cool is that? So Dr. LaMarca, thank you so much for being on the podcast.
You're welcome. And thank you for that great introduction.
But before we get started, first, a word from our sponsors. Hey, this is Brad Block, host of The Physician's Guide to Doctoring. This is a personal and professional development podcast for physicians where we have experts on the show that try to teach us everything we should have been learning while we were memorizing Krebs cycle. Doctors change lives every day, but what happens when life changes yours? A single injury, a sudden illness, your career, your income, your future can shift in an instant. The best physicians don't just plan for success, they protect it. At Set for Life Insurance, they believe financial security isn't a luxury, it's a necessity. True own occupation disability insurance ensures that no matter what happens, your future stays in your hands. Because protecting your income means protecting everything you've built. Visit drpodcastnetwork.co/setforlife today. Secure your future before life makes that choice for you. Okay, and we're back. So, Dr. LaMarca, I love to start off with a good story. So, is there a story you can tell us where lucid dreaming profoundly impacted someone's life?
My life. For sure. It's been life-changing for me. I wasn't born a natural lucid dreamer. I learned it later in life in one of my psychology classes and started learning about it. And from there was just able to pick it up and I got really involved in the practice. I've been using it in a way that doesn't just help my personal life, but given that I was on a trajectory of already studying psychology and how to help people and had a lot of interest in sleep, certainly was able to weave my learnings into my professional training to be able to help people. Have plenty of stories about lucid dreams that were really transformative for me, particularly around the issue of recurring nightmares. Happy to share one of those or wherever you want to go with this.
Let's get into a good story here.
Wow, really personal to get started, huh? Yeah, which one to pick? Certainly I've used it for helping me overcome like sleep paralysis. I never had sleep paralysis. This is where you wake up in your bed and you feel frozen and you can't move. And there tends to be some sort of entity or disturbing creature in the room with you. It could be a really frightening experience for people. I never had it before I started lucid dreaming, but would have it when I was pursuing this topic. I was really passionate about. Yeah.
So we're already getting into potential complications of lucid dreaming. It's like you need to consent from someone's surgery. You need to consent someone to lucid dream. So one of the risks is it might induce sleep paralysis, which is where, because you don't act out your dreams, so you're paralyzed, your muscles act like that's for the doctors, right? This is where sleep apnea comes from because you're so relaxed that your throat can close. That's why you don't have awake apneas. It's sleep apnea. So when your muscles relax, but they can relax so much that you can't move. And then when you wake up during that, sleep paralysis. So what you're saying is lucid dreaming can cause that?
Yeah, it's actually a welcome experience because it's a doorway into lucid dreaming, but becoming lucid doesn't necessarily mean you can control your dreams in that they're all going to be great and positive. And I think that's a big myth that a lot of people hold about this state because it's so freeing and there's no consequences. You can supposedly do a lot of things you can't access in life, but that's not really the real story. There's a lot of benefits.
Burst our bubbles later, draw us in first with a hook, with a good story, and then burst our bubbles. So actually, let's get this out of the way then first. Let's just define a lucid dream. What is a lucid dream?
So ordinarily in our dreams, we're not thinking about what our state is. We just go along with what's happening passively, and we don't really think about the fact that we are dreaming. But in a lucid dream, this is where you explicitly recognize what your state is, that you're in a dream in real time, and that you're actually asleep in bed. Your body's safe, it can't be harmed, And there's a number of different schemas that this opens up, or belief systems that help you navigate the state to obtain personal benefit and reward. So there's a lot of personal reward that can be obtained from it, even though you will most likely encounter some challenges and difficult aspects. A lot of them are surmountable, and the journey is worth it. So really want to emphasize that.
Okay, so let's start off with just the fact that this sounds like out there, right? So you're going to have some skeptics in the audience that are like, okay, so I get that you can become aware of your dreams. So what? Like, for the skeptics out there, like, what is the benefit here?
Depends on the application. If we're talking about clinical populations, people that suffer from nightmares, from trauma, from dream disturbances, from sleep paralysis attacks, then the benefit is pretty clear and distinct. If you're able to recognize what state you're in and disrupt the narratives or loops that tend to keep people stuck in suffering from those states, lucid dreaming can be really powerful. But for people that don't have those types of experiences, there's a lot of reward that you could get from these states. First of all, it's very freeing to be in a state where you can experience almost anything, things that are difficult to experience or access in your daily life.
Like what? I mean, I'm sure everyone's got some idea of, you're in this dream world, this cartoon world, where you can, like, do what? What are some of your patients talking about that they'll do in their lucid dreams or access in their lucid dreams?
Cartoon world? Dreams are very realistic, first of all, but think on the level, the easiest thing for people to understand is to do the impossible. Things like flying or dream sex. There's a lot of entertainment value. It can be really fun and interesting to explore your own mind on this level. Go different places, or there's so many things that are just entertaining on that level. But it goes so much deeper than that. If there's a problem in your life that you want to use your dreams as a space to explore that more specifically, you can intend to do that in the lucid dreaming space. For example, like when I was writing my book, Learn to Lucid Dream, by the end of it, I was so burnt out and I didn't know how to end it, just those last few paragraphs. And I said, when I was taking a nap, if I get lucid, I'm going to try to get over my writer's block. And I had a lucid dream, and when I woke up from it, I didn't think it gave me the answer, but then when I wrote the dream report out, I used that to help me write the end of the book. It was just a beautiful example of that. But yeah,
lucid dreaming to write a book about lucid dreaming.
Or even just like being pregnant. What am I going to name my child? Maybe I'm going to go in my lucid dreams and try to figure out, what would I name him? What does he want to be named? I think there's a lot of practical everyday applications for normal problems people experience. So
like creative issues. It sounds, a lot of what you're talking about sound like issues with creativity. So you're stuck and you want to go to a place where you're more free to experiment. Is that what it is?
That's one way to look at it, that creative problem solving aspect. And I think that's where a lot of people's suffering comes from. It's rooted in this experience where we get stuck in these rigid narratives and we can't really think outside the box. One of the most beautiful benefits of lucid dreaming is it alters your perspective radically, because you see that you're dreaming and things aren't real. There's different things that are operating in that state, like there's no consequences to what you do. You can drop inhibitions, you can engage with less fear. It really opens people up to a learning space that can be helpful in really practical ways. And I also just mentioned the spiritual applications of this. Lucid dreaming is rooted or has overlap with, for example, the Tibetan Buddhist dream yogas, which have been around for hundreds and hundreds of years. They use lucid dreaming to explore spiritual states. When you don't have sensory inputs from the material world, it makes people be a lot more open to having more transcendent and peak experiences. This is similar to what, like, this is why people use sensory deprivation tanks, or
yes,
they go in a cave and they meditate. So there's a lot of spiritual aspects that can come from exploring this state that really open you up to some wider worlds.
One thing that comes to mind for me is whenever I'm in points of stress in my life, I always have the same math dream or some school-related dream. And given that the listeners are physicians, I know you all are having those same dreams too. You're under stress and you're at school and you did not prepare. We spent so many years of our life in school and study, right? You show up and you've never been to class, or you weren't prepared for the test, or you can't hand in the essay because it wasn't something academically related happens. And I'm aware that I'm in a dream. Screw this. I'm out of here. I'm leaving, and then move the dream elsewhere. So I think for me, that's clearly going to be one of those initial benefits, where if it's a nightmare scenario, you can become aware of it. And then, so I can see where it could really work well for treating nightmares. So creativity, stumbling blocks, nightmares. Like sometimes people are afraid to go to sleep because they're having recurring nightmares. They don't want to go to that place, right? And so then that causes insomnia.
And so you go shift from feeling powerless to being empowered, basically. And being able to shift the narrative and avoid the stressor in your dreams, I think that can bring some short-term benefit. But the long-term benefit is to actually try to engage with some of those experiences in your dreams. For
Wait,
example,
so you're telling me I'm going to have to go back and study for that test in my dream? I'm going to have to overcome it? Where are you going with this?
If you know it's a dream, try to investigate. Why do I keep having this dream? Does this parallel something in my life? Is there a way that I can engage? Ask for help. Talk to your own mind. Tell your mind, hey, whatever it is, I'm open to working with this. If there's anything that I need to do to help reconcile this within myself or come to more peace, I hope I'm open to it, and see how the dream responds.
Right.
It's different than control, right? Instead of trying to make things happen the way you think you want it to happen, it's engaging with the dream in a different way. And what's interesting is with that absence of inputs from the sensory world, the material world, you can think certain things or have certain intentions or emotions. And because there isn't a stable environment, because of that cutting off of those sensory inputs, the dream tends to respond to those intentions and what you're thinking about in the dream. So it can actually create a really great learning environment to work with some aspects of yourself that might be a little more remote or less tangible in waking life. Some of those aspects of yourself, they can manifest in the dream and make it more tangible and easy to work with.
Wow. So I'm sold. So then let's get started. How do we do it?
Increasing your access to lucid dreaming involves a lot of memory training. You need to remember that you're in the dream state in the first place. Being able to recall your dreams is a big part of that. If you don't have a lot of dream recall, then you're going to have a hard time with lucid dreaming. And we know this from the research. Higher levels of recall seem to be associated with lucid dreaming. So you can pursue that with a dream journal. If you don't have a lot of time, or you're busy with work or kids or family, then, and I experienced this myself, and you can just bullet point your dreams. Or sometimes I'll use like a voice memo. It's easier to do that than record or disrupt my partner in the middle of the night. And what you're doing is you're looking to become familiar with what you tend to dream about, because you're looking for cues that can serve as memory cues to become lucid. And so you want to train your memory to recognize those cues in future dreams. So we call those dream signs. So signs that you're dreaming.
Hold on. So if we're someone that doesn't tend to remember the dreams to begin with, it's going to be harder to then become lucid, because you don't even, who knows, you may become lucid, but you forgot about it anyway. So there's no way to know. But for those who do struggle with even dream recall, you're saying journaling upon awakening, like immediately upon awakening, is one way to train ourselves to improve that recall.
Yeah.
So we're like more likely to remember it if we journal it. So it's almost like we anticipate that we're going to need to have remembered it, so we do remember it. Is that correct?
You could set your intentions to work on dream recall. Capturing the dreams quickly after they happen, before they fade, is a really good way to do that. And make sure that you write it down. And even if your dream recall is a little bit low, just know that dream recall is trainable. It's something that you can work with, and it could become something that comes a little bit more easily.
Okay, so aside from journaling, is there anything else that we can do to help with recall?
Right. So once you're more familiar with what you tend to dream about, you want to look for something we call dream signs. So signs that you're dreaming. So these are cues from your dream that would be a good memory cue to recognize your dreaming. So you want to pair it with recognizing your state. So good cues might be things that are impossible, so different from your waking life, to help you discern the states. So it could be something impossible, or maybe not impossible, maybe just improbable, something that doesn't really happen all that often. But maybe it's possible in waking life, but it tends to happen in dreams a lot. And if not impossible or improbable, look for things that you just tend to dream about. So things that are dream-like. So that could be something not working right, or being back in school, or not being able to open your locker, spending time with an old friend that you haven't seen in many years. How likely is that? That's something dream-like. So you pick something from your dream, and then you want to use some visualization to train your memory. So instead of the dream going on, progressing where you don't become lucid, you don't notice you're dreaming, you choose that dream sign and you rehearse recognizing it. Oh, here I am driving in the backseat of my car again. I remember this dream. I've had this dream before. This is not possible in waking life. This was what I was trying to remember to do, to remember that this is a dream. So you rehearse getting lucid in your imagination, and then do whatever you wanted to do at that point, whatever your intentions
wait a
were.
second. So you just picked something that's been in my dreams, right? Driving from the back seat of the car, like completely out of control of the vehicle. Like
Yeah.
I hadn't remembered that I had dreamed about that until you mentioned it, and then it came to the forefront of my mind. So how is it? These are like recurring themes in modern society that people have. How did you get inside my head? Is what I want to know.
I think that's a common dream. And our dreams are meant to help us process memories and emotions and problem solve. And so I think that's common for people to have these mini stressors in their dreams where things aren't working the way they want and they're trying to solve a problem. Doesn't necessarily have to be a nightmare. And it's common for those to recur. And once you start to pay attention to your dreams and really develop your recall and memory, you'll start to notice those patterns most likely.
Okay, so first we're going to start dream journaling. So as soon as we wake up, we'll write down what we dreamed about, and we'll start to put together patterns. After that, when we're in the dream, we're going to try and recognize that we're in the dream by finding things that are either impossible or improbable, or that we know we've dreamed about before. And so we recognize we're in that situation again. Hey there, it's Brad. As someone who's passionate about podcasting, I've always thought there should be more support for physicians who want to share their stories and expertise. That's why we're launching Doctor Podcast Network.
We're bringing together a community of physician podcasters with one goal in mind: to provide the tools, connections, and resources you need to grow your show. So whether you've been podcasting for a while or maybe you're just starting, we've designed this network to support you every step of the way, and we're going to help each other rise, not compete.
If this sounds like something you'd benefit from, we'd love for you to join us as we get closer to launch. So you can sign up at drpodcastnetwork.co for early access. Stay tuned for more details in the coming weeks. Really looking forward to what we can create together. Doctor Podcast Network, where doctors podcast.
Doctor Podcast Network, where doctors podcast.
Doctor Podcast Network, where doctors podcast.
Right. So you're imagining this before bed and you try to intend, okay, if that happens tonight or something similar happens tonight, I'm going to try to remember I'm dreaming. This is no different from, let's say, how an athlete trains themselves on how to handle a certain play or a situation on the football field, for example. So, for example, let's say they're in a game and it didn't go the way they wanted, much like you wake up from a dream and it didn't go how you wanted, you didn't get lucid. You imagine yourself back in that situation again, but this time making the right decision, remembering to do what you meant to do. And so athletes might visualize this, and that prepares them for the next time they're in a similar situation, then they can actually do the thing that they wanted to do. So that we're doing the same thing with lucid dreaming. We're training our memory in that regard. And I think that there's more advanced techniques and different variations, but that's a really basic practice that can get you started. It's foundational. There's also practices that you can do in the day, because our dreams and waking life, they're different, but they actually have a lot of similarities. I'm sure you encounter problems in your day-to-day life or things not working how they should. Can't tell you how many times I dream of my cell phone not working, or I'm trying to make a call, or my computer's not working.
Screen getting smashed. That's
a
recurring one.
And those recurring ones, they're great to target with this memory training. Or even, I missed the cue when we were getting ready for our podcast and testing our sound. Like, oh no, it's not working the way that it's supposed to. That's actually a really great time to notice, this is dreamlike. Could I be dreaming right now? Now, obviously, right now, there's nothing so impossible that I'm going to say, oh, yeah, I'm definitely dreaming right now. But you can confirm this with something we call a reality test or a state test, just to be sure you're definitely awake. The one that we recommend and think is pretty effective for people is to reread some small printed text. And so this involves a triple glance. So you find some text, you read it, memorize it, look away, read it again. 3 out of 4 times or so in a dream, it's going to change into something else, or the text might disappear, or maybe it's a different font or just says something completely different. Now, if it's the same, you want to look away one more time, but this time when you look back, imagine it's going to say something different and then read it again. And at that point, the numbers get into 95 or 98% of the time, it's going to change in your dreams. So this is something, you can practice during the day to continue preparing your memory for those moments in your dream state.
That's really funny. I remember that from a Batman cartoon from when I was like a teenager, because he was trapped in the dream state by some supervillain and realized he was in a dream because he couldn't read the text at all, because he opened a bunch of books and all of them were just completely incomprehensible. So it's really funny that I heard that 30 years ago from a Batman cartoon, and now I'm hearing it.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah. But for some reason, there's a lot of instabilities in dreams, but small printed text has a lot more instability than a lot of other things, more so than this table would.
Yeah, I guess because the amount of information or the specificity or being able to project something with that level of detail. So let's say you realize you're dreaming, right? So now we've accomplished that. We've reality tested. We realize that we're dreaming. But every time we do that, we wake up, right? Like the realization that we're dreaming just catapults us awake. How do we prevent that from happening? How do we stabilize the dream?
It's a really common issue, and we know that lucid dreams already take place when our brain is a little more activated. It's a more activated phase of REM sleep. So you're already close to waking up. Also, people get excited when they become lucid as well. So I think that might arouse the nervous system to the point where it just makes people wake up pretty quickly after they get lucid. So one thing you could do is try to stay calm and grounded and centered and just down-regulate your excitement a little bit and focus on remembering that you're dreaming and remembering what you wanted to do. We think there might be some sensory exercises that could potentially also help stabilize the lucid dream so you don't wake up. So one might be to rub your hands and really pay attention to your dream hands and the sensation. These sensations might be competing with your waking body in bed. So you kind of want to stabilize the dream in that sense. And this can increase the chance you might stay in the lucid dream. But the one that I think might work better is actually spinning your dream body. So you get lucid, maybe you feel the dream is shaky, you're going to wake up, or you want to be sure you don't wake up. Just stand up and spin around over and over like a Tasmanian devil, and just keep reminding yourself that you're dreaming. And we think this might increase the probability that you'll stay in the dream state. It might have something to do with our vestibular system and how that's related with our REM sleep systems. And so those are a couple ways that you could try this. Be careful for false awakenings at that point. You expect to wake up once you're lucid because you remember you're in bed.
Oh,
but often,
man. Yeah, that's terrifying.
It's not. You're just laying in your bed, but it's a dream bedroom. It's like a replica, right?
I know, but you thought you were awake, and now you really weren't awake, and you're still in the dream. I don't know. So it's a little bit of a nightmare scenario, but maybe that's just me.
I think in the beginning, it's so new and foreign to people that it can feel that way. But at the same time, it's something that you could get used to and learn to recognize and really benefit from.
Reality test again, and there you go.
Yeah,
and then you realize you're dreaming. You gain control. So I guess for me, it's that loss of control, which my therapist and I have talked.
Yeah. Another thing is if you have that false awakening, or maybe you're awake, maybe you're not, you're close to the REM sleep state, you might be able to re-enter that dream lucid. So one good technique is just lay still, don't move, and imagine yourself spinning your body around and just keep repeating. The scene will be a lucid dream. And do it for about 60 seconds. And it's interesting. I'll be lying in bed and then I'm spinning like horizontally in my bed. And before you know it, I'm back in another dream. So you can induce that with a sleep onset REM period or just from a potential false awakening state. So you can see where the variety of induction skills can come into play. It's an art and something that is totally learnable, and it's just a lot of fun doing it.
Or if you find yourself spinning in bed and it's not intentional, you might have benign paroxysmal positional vertigo, and you should make an appointment with your local otolaryngologist to have that evaluated. So that's another thing about spinning in bed. Okay, so we had gotten in earlier about some myths about lucid dreaming. And one of them was that you're going to have control, like that you're going to have total control. And you made the point that you're really not. So what are some other myths about lucid dreaming that are out there?
Yeah, and just to remark on the control piece, you do have more creative direction if you're lucid and you know that you're dreaming, but I think overemphasizing control can be a myth, and it can make people feel stagnated and like they're not really getting much out of the practice. So other common myths, for example, people think that it might make your sleep less quality. You're not as restored when you wake up, for example. And this goes against what the research says. Most people wake up in a really positive mood after they've had a lucid dream, and they feel more restored, more invigorated. And it's a feeling that can linger throughout the day. Where we do see this can be an issue is if someone's trying to lucid dream, but they're over practicing the skills, or they're mispracticing, they're not applying them very well, or they're not balancing them very well, then that can actually interfere with getting enough sleep sometimes. That's just one thing to try to mitigate and be careful about.
What do you mean mispracticing? Like, how can someone mispractice these skills? They're like overdoing it. They're like trying to do it every single night with every single dream.
Yeah, for sure. It could be overdoing it, or they just could plain up be doing it wrong. People get their information from a lot of different places, like internet sources and even books. Sure, they don't describe techniques all that well or in the most effective way, or maybe in a way that aligns with some of the research. And even the research has more work to be done. Yeah, if you're not doing it right, then you might find yourself in a situation where you're getting frustrated and it's interfering with your sleep.
And just to close, since these are physicians that are listening, let's talk about what the evidence really shows about the benefits of lucid dreaming. Like you had mentioned before, it can help you with nightmares because then you're able to recognize you're in it, and then you can control it a bit more or really face what you're having the nightmares about, right? It can help with creative blockages. But what are some of the other mental health benefits of lucid dreaming?
So most of the evidence is regarding nightmares, and that really is the most clear and distinct application of lucid dreaming at this point. There is more broad applicability, and there's been decades of literature accumulating, but most of it is correlational or survey research or case reports, but enough to help people or clinicians like me know, hey, I think there's something here. This is a way that I could apply this to my personal circumstance to help me, whether it's my depression, my thinking patterns, confronting my fears in a space where I'm safe and I know there'll be no consequences. There's a lot of applicability. We need more trials to really help us discern who it helps, how it helps them, if there's subsets of people that it helps. And I'm talking about beyond nightmares. But even with nightmares right now, that treatment is not well established. It's viewed as promising and that it can be helpful. It could be used as an alternative to the first line therapy for nightmares, which is imagery rehearsal therapy. So that's where you take your dreams and you rescript them to have a more positive ending or outcome or something that you feel better about. And that can help for 70 to 80% of patients typically, if not, possibly not eliminating them, at least reducing them. So there is a lot of room for that field to grow and for lucid dreaming possibly to help people where what we have and already think works isn't helping enough. So it's good to have that as an alternative. There's some research that it can help with PTSD and PTSD nightmares. There's some mixed research with trauma, depression, and substance abuse where sometimes we see it helps and other times not. And with some of the more recent research on PTSD, some of that research, it's just using waitlist controls. They're not verifying diagnoses. So there's a lot more work that needs to be done to really show. But what it does show is that it's promising and it really does seem like there's something there. So I'm looking forward to seeing that develop more in the literature.
You can tell that you're a clinician and a scientist by the fact that I asked you what the evidence shows and you hedged on like everything, which is what we're not facing in society right now, right? Everyone's so certain about everything when you find that information online that like the minute we have some promising treatment for something, they're like, oh, let's sell it to the
let's go with
masses
that.
before it's really, yeah. So I love that you really reined this in. But
Yeah.
it just, to me, it just sounds so cool. It just sounds like such a cool skill to acquire. And as physicians, we try to squeeze the juice, every single drop of the lemon, and to the point where now it's going to invade our dreams. Like we can't rest. We have to make our dreams productive too. That's what we're like. But no, it's so you can just enjoy your dreams more and really do some
Find some
soul
peace
searching.
there.
That's what we're trying to do here. Okay, so if people want to learn more about lucid dreams, they want to hear more from you, where can we find you online?
The best hub to find me is at mindfulluciddreaming.com. You'll find some resources there to personally learn about lucid dreaming. I'm also going to be offering some courses on continuing education for clinicians soon. So if you're interested in not only how this can help my patients, but how can it help me or maybe people that I care about, that might be something that you're interested to check out. So that's mindfulluciddreaming.com.
Dr. Kristen LaMarca, mindfulluciddreaming.com. Thank you so much for your time and all you do for your patients.
Thank you.
Do for your patients.
Thank you.
Do for your patients.
Thank you.
Do for your patients. Thanks for listening. I have a favor to ask. You listened to the episode until the end, which means you either fell asleep or you really liked the episode. So please share it or like it or comment on a social media post or write us a 5-star review, something. It would really help me out. And maybe what you learned from this episode can help someone else too. The views expressed in this episode are those of the interviewer and interviewee and don't represent the views of their employer or even their significant other. Even though the magic of podcasting make it sound like I'm talking directly to you, this is not a doctor-patient relationship, and this is not medical advice or financial advice or really any advice. Thanks again for listening to The Physician's Guide to Doctoring.